But as she does that, can I say, if you need a toilet, just go out there, turn right, you see the signs. If you're eating, I'm sure you probably need it very soon. Well, thank you so much for coming. Rachel, thank you.
Good evening. Sorry about my voice. My name's Rachel Muir. As a proud Yorta Yorta woman, it's an honour and privilege to do an acknowledgement to country and pay my respects. I acknowledge the Wathaurong people, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we are meeting today. The Wathaurong country has 25 clans and it stretches from Ballarat to the Werribee River, Bagsmarsh to Cressy, to Colac and the east to Lawn and to Geelong, incorporating the woodlands of the Otway Ranges, oceans, bay coasts and grasslands, lakes and wetlands of the volcanic plains of the Bellarine Peninsula, and the woodlands of the Central Victorian Dividing Range. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and pay my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. The Wathaurong people also had cooperative relationships with settlers, such as convicts like William Buckley. Buckley had many adventures with the Wathaurong people. He and his crew had met with the Wathaurong people upon their returns from celebration and ceremonies. Eventually, Buckley came to live with the Aboriginal people 30 years prior to settlement of Victoria. And so I would like to acknowledge the settlers and their descendants, immigrants, migrants, refugees and asylum seekers, for they bring to this land new culture, languages, food, traditions, religions, as well as their own history to share with us, and are very much a part of the Aboriginal lifestyle and a culturally diverse nation. So may the generous and wise spirit of Bunjil and Wa guide you and give you joy in the dreaming, strength, courage and wisdom and understanding, cooperation and friendship in this community of Ballarat. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. That was so beautiful. Very, very warm-hearted and expansive and generous. So thank you very, very much. Quite moving to hear those words and to welcome all of us. And it's all-encompassing, everybody. And I'm sure all of us here will fit in that category. So thank you very, very much for that generous acknowledgement of country. Yesterday was Are You OK Day? And I was thinking, how appropriate that we're actually having this, the day after the Are You OK Day. And this morning, I was having coffee at McDonald's across the road from where I live, as I do most mornings after my walk. And I picked up the newspaper, the Courier, and the front page of the Courier actually really shocked me. The news in the media and confirming that in Ballarat, that 30% of our men have 30% higher rate of suicide, men's suicide in Ballarat than across the state of Victoria. And that was on the front page this morning. I don't know whether you actually picked that up, and you probably know this already. We have the recent Royal Commission into mental health and what that has unraveled for all of us in our community. I guess it's a national crisis and emergency, and we must respond. Some people like famous Australian Hugh McKay had talked about social fragmentation, loneliness and isolation, and lack of hope and meaning, coupled with this insane financial and advertising culture that we have, and too much emphasis on the material things and consumer culture as contributing to the state of mental health. And of course, the disconnection from nature, the environment, and what that's doing to the state of our mental health. I guess we gather this night to say, how can we respond? What does faith have to do to mental health? What does faith contribute? Does it have any positive impact of faith to holistic health? We gather this evening through our speakers to listen, to share, to look beyond ourselves, to transcendence, higher power, God, whatever you want to call that supreme being, that we can actually look for that being for meaning and purpose and hope. I want to thank you for coming, and we will have fantastic speakers tonight who will help us look at how faith can actually contribute positively to holistic health. And holistic health really says we've got to take seriously our body, our mind, and our spirit. That's really what it says. We've got to look after your physical health, your mental health, and then your spiritual health. That's what really it means to talk about holistic health. It's not one or the other. All of the three have to be together, working in connection with each other for us to be whole and for us to be well. So I hope that we can listen to each other, we can share, we can learn, and above all, build community. Above all, become people of tenderness and compassion and people of love. In this world we live in, where so many of our friends are struggling. So I welcome you, and I just want to give you a little bit of an overview, which is we have the speakers now, 4 of them who will speak for 10 to 15 minutes, and then after that there'll be a 10-minute break where we can mingle, talk, eat more food or have more drink, whatever you want to, and then after that we have 20 to 25 minutes roundtable discussion, and then at the end we have a plenary. We all come together and bring and wrap the evening up. So that's the format for the evening. If you haven't written your name on your badge, please do so that you get to, that's for the whole point of this evening, is for us to actually encounter one another, create this space where we can have an encounter. So if you haven't done that, there are some stickers and pens on your table for you to do that. Can I also encourage you to switch off your phones if you haven't done that, or put them on silence if you haven't already done that, and then we can start. As you're doing that, I'm going to tell you a joke just to get you to laugh. A laugh or two is actually good for mental health. A grandfather went to his doctor to get a new hearing aid. So he got a new hearing aid and has been using it for about 2 months. And then went for a checkup. And his doctor said to him, "It must be great. Now you can hear your children and grandchildren, talking, and you can actually understand what they're saying. It must be wonderful." And the grandfather said to him, he's quite wealthy, he said to his doctor, "You know what? I haven't actually told them that I've got a new one. I just sit and listen to their conversation, and I've changed my will 3 times." But there you go. So a laugh or two is very good for our mental health. It is my privilege now to invite Dr. Sundram. He will be first cab off the rank, as we said. He will be first speaker. Got a lot of information about Sundram here. We're going to take 10 minutes to read it before I introduce it, but I think I'm going to summarize it, Doctor. Sundram is a man that requires no introduction in Ballarat. I'm sure a lot of you here would have met him if you live in Ballarat. He is a wonderful man, involved at Ballarat regional level, involved with the Ballarat Hindu Temple and Cultural Centre, a refugee advisory committee, settlement committee. At the state level, he's also involved in as a member of the Advisory Council for the Victorian Eye Care Services, Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria, Deputy Chair, and a board member of the Consumer Engagement Council for South East Water Victoria. At the national level, Chair of Community Observer Committee, National Health and Medical Research Council, Multicultural Ambassador for Mental Health Foundation Australia, and of course Alcohol and Drug Foundation of Australia. Then at the global level, it gets even better. He's the director of Southeast Asia Cluster, Emotional Wellbeing Institute Geneva, a steering committee member, Diversities Network Australasia, and then a professor of rural health, Emotional Wellbeing Institute in Geneva, Switzerland. He's also the adjunct professor with the University of Manipur in India, and associate professor at Cook University in the School of Medicine and Dentistry. Senior lecturer at Melbourne Royal Clinic and School of Medicine at Shepparton, and a lecturer in nursing at the University of Ballarat. These are some of the wonderful things he's done and continues to do. He earned his PhD from the University of Melbourne, as well as other things. But above all, Sundram was actually born in Malaysia. He maintains his language interests in Tamil, his mother tongue Malay, country of origin, while learning Japanese, Vietnamese, and Hindu where possible. I don't know whether you have 24 hours like the rest of us, Sundram. It seems like before we have 36 or something. He was the foundation chair of Ballarat Regional Multicultural Council. He just completed his 2 terms as the Victorian Multicultural Council Commissioner and had been on the Ministerial Advisory Council for Responsible Gambling in Victoria. So I guess there's so much about Sundram, but I think above all, he's a man who has a heart for the community and for multicultural interests as well. And he publishes widely in journals, magazines, and in books. He is currently, I think, about to launch his book, which we are all looking forward to in due course. So Sundram, you're very welcome, and it's lovely that you'll be first speaker tonight. So please, let's welcome Sundram.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, MC Constantine. Certainly, I'm looking forward not only hearing my story, sharing my story, but also to listen to others. I'm glad that you all had found some time to attend this evening's session, and hopefully there'll be things that we'll be sharing, as the MC mentioned. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land on which we are meeting and pay my respects to the elders past and present and the future. I also like to acknowledge Ballarat Interfaith Network, in particular for Margaret Evers, who have been planning for this forum with the team for a long time. And also, I'm also excited to this evening to be along with the other speakers. So it's going to be a privilege to share our stories. Please forgive me if I become emotional in my talk, because the journey that I took was very undulating. So when I'm talking today, it is my version of the journey and the experiences that I've had. So it is a very biased talk from my point of view. So please understand, I'm not a preacher, but I'm going to share the story. And for those who have faith, I'm sure that you will be ardently listening to it. And for those who may not be in a faith, you're most welcome to listen. And please feel free to ask questions as well. Firstly, when we talk about faith, what is faith? I think when we talk about faith, we're talking about something we have a complete trust and confidence in something. It could be a tree, it could be a person, or it could be, a statue, or whatever. It all depends on your personal feelings. I was born a Hindu, but I have been exposed to several of the places of worship in Malaysia. As you know, it's a cosmopolitan country. So at 14, I was beginning to understand about the Hindu faith. And from then on, I was very involved for the remaining 3 to 4 years about faith. Connecting the faith to mental well-being. When we talk about mental well-being, it's a sense of feeling good with the daily adjustment of stresses in life. So in my case, because of my poverty-stricken, there was a need for the mental well-being because of my poverty. Let me share a little bit of the introduction from the book that is almost going to the press. To share my story had been difficult because I had to relive the several uncomfortable moments when I'm describing the past experiences. The main benefit in writing this story has allowed my long-term unsettled feelings and experiences that were dormant in me to find an outlet to be released, thus settling my emotional well-being. During those periods of distressful situations, I had no one to share my circumstances except to my Lord Ganesha. There were many times I have narrated my sorrows to him that calm my emotions and gave me the strength. It was my journey with hope. In my early days, I realized I have been deprived the basic privileges that every child should deserve. But somehow, I was subjected to survive and live in poverty. Such unfair deprivation. Sorry, folks. Such unfair deprivation made me wonder and asked me for an acceptable answer as to why I was subjected to such miserable circumstances. Why was I denied the experience of a fatherly love when I was only 4 years old of age and lost him? Then my mother, who was still alive, was forced to be separated from me and also limited the only parental affection that I yearned for that time when I needed her the most. Why did I not have a basic home to grow up? Instead, in an infested, dilapidated place with poisonous, creeping animals that frightened the life out of me daily. Even my daily meals were very uncertain, let alone no proper clothes to cover myself. Except for my school uniform that was reserved for only when I went to school. There were many more unanswered questions to my Lord Ganesha, but with no satisfactory answers. I have to console myself that my birth into such circumstances happened not by choice, but by destiny. When I realized that there were not many choices left for me to improve my future in that poverty-stricken situation, I had to make a break from it. At the age of 17, although I was still very green about the world outside, but my desperation forced me to make the brave move. Thus my journey began against all odds as I proceeded to reach my goal. Let me share with you, I come from a family of 6. And I was the 6th and the youngest. By the time I was growing up, as I mentioned before, I had virtually nothing. So in Malaysia, I was not a Muslim, so I couldn't find a job. I was a Hindu. Then I had to leave the country because there was no one else to help me when I finished my O-levels. So when things were really at the bottom, rock bottom, all I had to do was either I stay or make a break from the country. So I decided to pack my bag at 17 and leave and go to Singapore. Right. Singapore was another level because I was not a Chinese. So I couldn't, get anything that is worth. So I struggled there, worked in factories and so forth, and finally found my way to Scotland. I went to Scotland because that was the only option I had left. I was able to do nursing. I got some money from nursing and then pursued my tertiary studies following that. I'm so grateful to the Scottish to give me a start in life. And I've gone back to the community and I've thanked them. From there I came to Queensland, then life changed a bit and worked in Ballarat and then got involved with the community work. And I feel that I owe so much to the community. As such, my passion for the community and to support the community will always continue as long as I live. Let me share how the faith and some of the things I'm going to share with you. There are 4 instances. I know the MC has given me 10 minutes. I will not take too long, more than that, hopefully. Now, firstly, when I left Malaysia and going to Singapore, I arrived there and not realizing that this country is all new and virtually I didn't know anyone. So I went to this address a friend had given me, thinking that he would be there. When I reached there, when I knocked on the door and the lady said, "Son, I'm so sorry, Raja doesn't live here anymore, he has left." Then I came down, and then I said, oh my God, what am I going to do next? So I called to my dad and I said, are you still hearing me? What am I going to do now? Where am I going to look for him? I have no idea about this place. And as you know, if you've been to Singapore, it's all skyscrapers. So I was standing there, and then I said, what am I going to do? I was thinking, and I don't know what this is, a miracle or coincidence, whatever you can put it. So here, after 2 minutes, I saw this young man walking right straight to me, and he was smiling, and he was coming straight for me, and I was turned around and looked, why on earth he's coming towards me? This is about 6:30 in the morning. It is a shipbuilding industry area in Jurong in Singapore. And he came and he said, you look so worried, you just must have just arrived. I see your, bags and so forth. I'm sure you haven't had your breakfast. Come on, let me buy for you breakfast. We sat down and we, spoke, and he bought the breakfast, and then, cutting the story short, we walked to his flat, and he said, don't worry, we'll find your friend. As we walked, and then when we were sitting down and having a yarn, he said, this is my class photo. And the coincidence is, I looked at it and said, this is also my class photo. So this is out of nowhere, right? No idea. And then this person happened to be my classmate. Right? So unexplained, okay? Number 2, returning from London after dropping my girlfriend, okay? So this is my wife, Subhatra. She wanted to go to Malaysia, and I said, okay, we'll do that. So we did. But that was the silliest thing I did. Driving all the way from Dundee to London, on the 4 lanes, and coming back, and I was so tired after dropping her, I said, okay, let me have some meal. And then the worst thing I did was having a glass of beer. Now, when you're tired, don't drink. Okay, that's a lesson I learned. So I was coming back, I was driving at 120 miles per hour. Right? I'm on the fastest lane, young blood, sort of thing. So I was going here, and I fell asleep. Totally asleep. Now, as I was driving, and someone came along and pushed me on the shoulder. This is out of nowhere. I was totally gone, and this person pushed me. I went like this, and the next thing I see, I'm holding the steering wheel. Right? Well, I don't know whether it's a coincidence or that's my father again. Getting to the airport is another incident. So this is the time that we got married and we were going, and I couldn't join my wife on the same flight from Malaysia, so I had to go earlier to Bangkok. So I waited for her, and then on my way to the airport, and I thought, this is a fantastic hotel, they had all this vehicle and all that. So I was in the car, and we were going, and the storm started. As the storm started, well, it doesn't stop, particularly tropical rainfalls. So this was going on, and then next minute I looked down and I said, what's here? So the water has been coming right through the subframe and already touching my feet. And I said, this is not good here. And then a few minutes later the car stopped. Now, this is at 7:30, nearly 8 o'clock at night. It's a pouring rain. You can't see anything what's happening on the roadside. So if you look at the road on either side, it's like the paddy fields have been flooded. So you've got pools of water this side, pools of water this side, and you can only see the road. So this man can't speak in English, I can't speak in Thai. So after that, he knew I was really upset. So I said, what can I do now? I could only pray, right? We could only have hope and go for the prayer. Once again, Dad, where are you? Are you watching me? Do you want me to put through another level? I was standing there and, with a little bit, shade from one of the wooden posts. And then a few minutes later, the car came and stopped. You had no idea why this car came and why the car stopped. And then I expected someone must have stopped for me. So I carried my suitcase and jumped into the car, and we took off. And normally, I'm a talkative person. I'm the last one you would see me staying quiet. I never said a word. All of a sudden, he took me straight to the airport. Just before about 100 meters from the airport, he dropped me off. And normally in Thailand, any service you do, you need to, normally they wait for a return, yeah? Some sort of yep. And so here I was, waiting to put my hand in the pocket. The next minute the car turned and went off. It did dawn to me, but I was, in the queue waiting for my ticket. And here I was thinking, who the hell that was? Who was it? I couldn't still find the answer. Okay? So here, this is what God does, right? He helps you in many, many strange ways. I always wanted to do medicine, right? If I had done medicine, what I would have done? I would have ended up teaching the doctors, right? But earlier on in life, if you believe in trance, someone said, end of the day, you will end up teaching the doctors. That's what I did. Okay? But I did not get an MBBS, but I was teaching the undergraduates and postgraduates. The thing is, in my belief, when I had I had nothing to lose. Okay? So I started the journey. I started the journey because I had the hope. Because I always believe He's there. Today, my belief and faith has gone beyond 100%. Okay? So you can't shake away Lord Ganesha from me. Okay. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure there would be, if there are questions, anything after that, you can always follow up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sundram. What a powerful witness and a heartfelt story, personal story of faith and hope and courage in the midst of adversity. So thank you very, very much. There will be later on opportunity for plenary questions to our panel. But if you want to write some things down, there are pieces of paper on your tables and pens. You can make notes and then you can bring those questions and comments later on. So our second speaker tonight is Rachel Muir. Rachel is a proud, is it Yota woman? Mother of two awesome kids, Samara age 7 and Samuel age 5. Rachel has worked in health field for the past 25 years, currently works at Ballarat Community Health. She's an active member of Ballarat Aboriginal community for the past 40 years and an intercultural ambassador for the city of Ballarat and a passionate advocate for victims and survivors of sexual abuse and domestic violence. Can we please welcome Rachel?
This is my personal story about faith and my upbringing. So I recall growing up with my mother and my older brother, and from a young age I watched my alcoholic father abuse my mother, and myself and my brother lived through that. To being told that I was an unwanted child and I was a mistake, and that made me feel unloved in this world, and I had no reason to love myself, and that was from a really young age. So I started school at a Catholic primary school. I don't know why Mum put us into a Catholic school, but I learned about God there, and Mother Mary, Jesus, and all their gang. So, which I started to believe, which made me start to be a happy child, and this allowed me to start loving myself and feel comfortable as a child. But I felt as soon as I started to care about myself, then I faced more traumatic experiences in my childhood, from sexual abuse and physical abuse by family members and others. So then again, I blamed myself because I started to love myself. So then I started not to care about myself, and it was all about, it was my fault everything was happening to me, because I must have been feeling, up at last to love yourself, like you feel above everybody else when you think about yourself first. But so to this day, I don't put myself first. I always put others first. Yeah. The sexual abuse happened the majority of my childhood. So my mind started to tell me, this must be what love is. Like, I never knew what love was because I was told I was unwanted from the beginning, and so I was never really hugged or kissed as a child, like caringly, unless it was in a form of sexual abuse. So I just thought that was, that's what love was. Yeah. So at the age of 8, my grandfather told me that I needed to cleanse my sins with God. So I thought I was a good child, but I had lots of demons. So I asked my mother if we could be baptised. But Mum thought it was just all the religious education I was receiving at school that made me interested in getting baptised. Little did my mother know that at the age of 8, I was thinking of my future. I always thought, would I ever get married? Would I ever be good enough for anybody? Would anybody ever love me? What is real love? What is anything? So, yeah, so the answer was I needed to ask God for forgiveness, and He was there to protect me. As an 8-year-old, I thought that God would protect me and being baptised would solve all my problems. Unfortunately, it did not. I think I was about 10 years old when I really thought about ending my life, to end all the heartache and pain that, but I was scared. I was scared of disappointing my mother. I was scared of that she would find out all these bad things that I had done with the sexual abuse and all that stuff. I thought that the stigma would stick to my mother and then people would not like her. So I thought, and I didn't want my mum to be lonely and she'd just be left with my brother. So it wasn't about until the age of 11, I was teased by a family member for being too white to be black. As my other family members are darker skinned Aboriginal people, and myself and my brother and a few other cousins are lighter, that's when I decided to find my culture. And I've decided to ask questions about who I am and where I came from and what made us different to the rest of us. And yeah, I just went on and on and on to educate myself. So then I thought I was more blacker than my black cousins because I was educated. I had the knowledge of who I was and where I came from. But yeah, so much of my adult life prior to my kids wasn't as much good. Domestic violence and just repeating the cycle of everything else. I had bouts of depression, lots of thoughts of self-harm, until I seen the darkness that takes over a mother when she finds out her child is dead. My auntie had twin boys that had committed suicide, and a mother never heals from the pain of a loss of a child through suicide. So from that time on, I never had thoughts of self-harm because I could not put my family through that. I found that death from suicide leaves family and community with unanswered questions and feelings of guilt. 8 of my cousins have ended their lives by the way of suicide. One recently is 2 years ago. I got no idea what their issues were. I know there was drug and alcohol abuse, but we never talked about sexual abuse anywhere in the family, so it's all a hidden secret. So yeah, so I'm sharing my story with you guys for the first time ever. So yeah, but I find peace with now spending time with my children, so I can live for them and guide them in a way and protect them that I thought that being baptised was going to protect me. but that's not the way it goes. So I'm here to live for my children and protect them and protect other children that are growing up in similar circumstances that I did. I just wish for my children to be positive members of society, and so they can pay it forward. I want to pay it forward. So my culture is Aboriginal. I still believe in Jesus. I do pray. I do get answers. I feel the spirit of my grandfather sit on my bed at times and tell me that I've been travelling along and doing well in life. The spirit of my non-Indigenous grandmother, she comes to me and she's proud of me, and I'm happy to say that, yeah. So I go to the river. My people are from the Yorta Yorta people. So at times when I'm feeling really, really down and depressed and I need connection to country, I go to the river, Murray River, jump in, have a swim, feel baptised in my own way. Yeah, and I just feel this sense of relief just come over me. And just recently I've been out to the highway with the Jabarang people that are protecting the sacred trees, and I've seen the birthing trees and just watched the birds fly and just feel a peace and serenity out there, and you just feel like you're floating on air. And then come back to town and you can take that extra step in life where you can just head down the road and take on the world, you know, and you just need to take time to heal yourself and never blame yourself, I say. So I find strength also in helping other people. Like I will advocate for people of victims or survivors, I call them, of sexual abuse and domestic violence. I fight for injustices that occur in this country, and that helps me to heal. I'm always on a healing journey, and tonight is another healing journey. So in my bag, sorry, I have this beautiful plant that I'd like to give to Mel Peters, because without her, I cannot continue to be on this journey. Thank you everyone for allowing me to tell you my story and share everything. And I just like for everyone to know that we all have troubled lives, and we all need to be there for one another no matter what colour we are. We all bleed the colour red, and we're all human. So thank you.
Rachel, thank you very, very much for, again, your personal story and your heartfelt address. And I think you can also see in that the connection to nature. As an Indigenous person, is something that we certainly, all of us, can learn. We're so disconnected from nature, we're so disconnected from the environment. And to be able to hear that, see how healing and therapeutic that is a lesson for us. To take care of nature, creation, to be involved, to be part of not only the human, as Sister Veronica often says, the human and the other than human components of our beautiful world. So thank you for alluding to that and for reminding us it's also our responsibility as a pathway for us to find peace and holistic health. Our third speaker tonight is Kevan Pitcher, and he has the shortest bio, which I'm very grateful. He says here that he's very busily retired, now a house husband with a big garden that grows great vegetables, and is a blessed spot for him, where mention of God is made and His praise glorified. I like that. And I'm an active grandparent, he says, and that he's learning Chinese. What a brave man in his retirement to be doing all that. So can I invite Kevin to please come over.